That's Mike.
That's Toya, and this is Tech Beats and Bytes. Latoya, how you doing today? So you're still late, even when you're trying to mock me. You just ain't gonna get that time unless we face to face.
I am good. How are you? How are you?
I am exhausted. I got a lot of phone calls yesterday. People
Mm.
decided they wanted to talk to me.
Uh-oh, what you done did?
I think we'll talk about that later.
Right. That's just a little preview for those who ain't know.
we'll just we'll just get into that later. But for some reason, the phone started ringing yesterday, so
Hmm.
I'm not sure exactly what happened, but I'm assuming it's something you did because I heard you was all on TV selling combs and stuff and telling people how to do their hair.
Oh, you know it. Listen, yes,
How did
last
that
week was
go?
amazing. It was really good. We had so much fun. So what he's talking about is we launched Cosmology on HSN last Tuesday and Wednesday, and it was
Okay.
so much fun. We had two shows, one on Tuesday and one on Wednesday. And the feedback has been great. We've been getting emails from people who's received their products, so it's been a lot of fun.
So
Yeah.
now, do we have an initial number, or are we allowed to talk about that?
Well, we're going to be getting our sales report soon, so
Okay.
we'll see. Yeah.
So
Yep. But we know that we exceeded our sales goal, so that was what was key.
that's all that matters. If you exceeded a
Hmm.
goal, that's definitely
Hmm.
good.
Yes,
Well,
yes.
congratulations. I am
Thank you.
above proud of you like a big brother. That is very
Appreciate
dope
it.
to see. I just hope when you get rich, you don't stop doing the show. And I just hope when you see the money come in, you don't expect to start getting paid.
Look at how people do you. Look at how they do you.
It's
No,
called
it's
keeping
good. It's
it's called
good.
keeping them honest, is what I'm talking. I don't want you to get over there and get all big headed and stuff and think it's about to
Listen,
change.
it's always still about the community doing the work.
You stop answering my random calls, we gonna have a problem.
Never that. Never that. Never that.
So, got a couple of stories you want to get into. I know everybody's really want to talk about the post, but people, we still want to give you some of the news. We just won't be spending a lot of time. If Dante, you can go ahead and drop in that graphic. We are going to discuss the droid effect that's happening to Apple, and I am not sure how I feel about it right now. Look, I'm just telling you, it's coming off to me in a way, and I'm not sure if I'm feeling that way. But if you guys haven't seen it, it just looks like Android to me. It's starting to feel very Androidish, and I'm starting to feel like I'm becoming claustrophobic on my own home screen with these options. The only thing I liked on there was having the
Hmm.
like the map thing and the music, but I use two different phones for music. So I don't know how you feel about it, but I just feel like it's starting to look very Androidish.
So how I feel about it? I'm
Yeah,
about to
that's
throw
what I
my phone
really
at the
wanted to.
wall anyway because
You having a
I'm out of
problem with your
space.
phone?
Yes, I'm out of space, so everything not working right. I'm about to throw it at the wall. But
Oh, you got too
yeah,
many apps because of Taco?
no, I don't even know what it is. I keep deleting stuff, and it just is like iPhone out of storage, out of storage. I don't know what it is. So,
Oh,
and
that's a
when
boy.
new updates come out, things start to break down.
Right.
So I'm sure they're about to release a new phone coming. When they do their whole Apple thing, and
Oh
what is
yeah,
that,
they definitely got some
September?
stuff. Right.
Yeah, they got some new stuff coming. So that's how they set you up. Stuff start breaking down, and it's just
What
like whatever. Get the new.
what is
So
this, Linda? What is this?
right. But no, I saw the screenshot, and yeah, it definitely looks like Droid. So, but we know, right? So, as much as we're Apple users, we know, honestly, Droid phones have been sort of leading recently in
Mm,
things from the camera to some of the once Apple did the whole swipe keyboard thing, Droid had that first.
yeah, true.
It's hard to admit it. Y'all was
Yeah.
ahead the last couple of years. So, the influence is there. You can see it.
I'm still not getting an Android. Just like
No, I'm not.
just it won't
No,
happen.
I'm not.
It'll
No,
never
I'm not.
happen. I will use Google Drive all day, but I would never get an Android. Just
Yeah,
put it
no.
like that.
All of my devices work together, and I plan to keep it that way.
I think that's the part, the connectivity,
That's it.
in, like kind of how your communities work. Just another preview.
Yeah,
Connectivity of how things go
right.
together and they in sync. It just kind of works
Yeah,
out for me.
it makes it easy.
Yeah, absolutely easy. Imagine that word. Okay. So
That's the benefit.
All right. And you want to tell me something about AI? What's going on?
Listen, so when AI gets it wrong. So in early May, a press release from Harrisburg University claimed that two professors and a graduate student had developed a facial recognition program that could predict whether someone would be a criminal. With 80% accuracy and no racial bias, the paper, a deep neural network model to predict criminality using image processing, claimed this algorithm could predict if someone is a criminal based solely on a picture of their face. But this is not the first time people have tried to use AI to predict someone's behavior. In 2018, the ACLU found that Amazon's facial recognition product, called Recognition, spelled with a K, misidentified members of Congress as
Mm.
criminals, erring more frequently, of course, on what? The black officials than white ones. Amazon recently announced a 1 year moratorium on selling the product to police. And then in 2017, a pair of Stanford researchers claimed their AI could tell if someone is gay or straight based on their face.
Why would you care?
First of all, why? Why do people keep trying to like live in Minority Report? That was a movie. Let it stay there. Like
Oh,
that's not the world we want to live in. Just having stuff try to predict if you're going to commit a crime. And listen. Technology is based on programming, and a lot of times bias is built into the programming because of the person who creates it.
I was about to say, if you just already a part of the supremacy while you building it, you ain't trying to fix that, and you ain't even focused on
Right,
it, so you don't even enter the data points to make it unbiased in the first place.
right, right. And you're talking about somebody would be a criminal. So because I have high cheekbones,
I
that
might be.
means I'm a rob somebody.
So I'm
No,
pretty sure
sorry.
everybody with dreads was already put into that. So I would have been gone a long time ago. Like, yo, he definitely gonna commit a crime.
Right. Luckily, people pushing back on it. They haven't fully like released the paper or anything like that. But again, that's something to keep your eye out on. That and we already see it, right? They were using AI in China to help track and pay attention to people. So
Hmm.
pay attention.
I'm
Don't
just
let it fool
curious,
you.
what would my crime be?
I don't know. That's an answer for the people. Drop it
But
in the comments.
yeah,
What would
everybody
Mike's
down there.
crime be?
If I committed a crime, because I always wear hats, earphones, t-shirts, and some cargo shorts, what crime would I commit if I was
Mm.
fake?
I'm excited to see these comments.
Me too. But everybody know y'all better not say nothing crazy because I can see your name. So
So yeah,
for the
thought that was
people
had to share that
here,
real quick.
we've been on. I just want to go through a couple of more topics so we can get to the bites of what's going on. But real quick in the music and entertainment world, Versus has done it again. John Legend and Alicia Keys, as I say, Linus and the little girl with her computer.
What?
John Legend just reminds me of Linus from Charlie Brown.
How so?
Like the
Where that came
position,
from?
the positioning he takes. You know how Linus was with his little
Oh,
piano.
yeah.
Just the positioning and how John positions himself when he plays. He just reminds me of Linus. Just I've always said it around the house. Alicia hates it, but it's just, she's
I
like,
thought you was gonna say because of the two step, because John was two stepping his ass off that whole so that whole show.
oh, I see. I actually didn't get to watch the show. I had to go work, but I mean, I knew John couldn't dance from that concert because he do the same dance to every song.
He was two stepping, the two stepping king during verses.
So the streaming numbers were out of control.
Yeah.
I don't think they had the same effects because they never went away, but stuff went up. But I'm just wondering how's this going to now impact the online concerts because I noticed from because of Vince Rock, our homegirl Karen, Essence has decided they're going to do a lot of their stuff that they were going to be doing for 4th of July for Essence Weekend. They're going to be doing it as an online concert. So what do you think is going to be the effects or how this exposure is either benefiting or hurting brands and sponsors that are now, because you still got to get your name and your face out there in front of people. I wonder if it's correlating to also a direct impact of people that are sponsoring and branding these events because Versus to me is positioned to become a internal part of Title or to become its own platform down the line
Hmm.
outside of like I would pay for a Versus subscription for like $1 a month or $4 a month
Yeah.
to have Versus content exclusively streamed. I wouldn't go to Instagram. I would pay to be a part of a Versus platform.
Yeah, because you could probably get some good behind the scenes, like the making of private concerts. No, I think that Versus is completely poised to become its own platform. When it comes to sponsorship, I just think it requires brands to think differently.
Mm.
Example, Puffy already sponsors Versus. All of them now are bringing out bottles of Ciroc.
That's a rock, yeah.
Right. So there's this already happening. So for those brands who are still so focused on TV, it's like, no, you need to pay attention to what's happening online and in social. Because, for instance, we wanted to watch the Bruce Lee 30 for 30. Missed it every time because no one's watching TV like that. You're
Mm.
everywhere else. So you're not seeing the commercials, you're not seeing the reminders for content that's on TV because you're not on TV. So that's not where the eyeballs are, especially depending on your demographic. So you need to be paying attention to where the people are and put your brands there.
Yeah. Well, I hope it works out for him. I mean, it's gonna be interesting, but I definitely hope it works out for him.
Yeah, we'll see.
So,
We
who's
shall see.
Blackball? Tell me who was
Mm.
Blackball.
So this morning, Wale took to Twitter to air some of his grievances with his management and the whole music industry. So Wale was tweeting, "My managers do the bare minimum. Labels been lying about the support of Black artists and music, but I don't know how to convey my thoughts without certain people saying I'm tripping." So he just had a few different tweets this morning. Not sure what triggered it, but and those who maybe are following him a little bit more, you may have some insight into that. But basically, we know that Wale has had some feelings for a very long time with his whole career and feeling like he has not had his just due. And so it seems like he's starting to come out publicly and talk about what's kind of really going on behind the scenes. In everything that happened this morning, he didn't place any blame on Ricky Rose, but let's see what happens as he continues to share his feelings. And we've seen how protesting and airing grievances has been doing some different things these days. So it may end up, giving Wale what he needs, giving him the attention and maybe making some things happen. Sometimes you got to shake it up a little bit. Listen, closed mouths don't get fed. So
Hmm.
I'm interested to see what happens with Wale. I'm a Wale fan, honestly. I like Wale's music. So
I remember you listening to him more than almost anybody I know, and not that he isn't hot anymore, but I definitely remember you listening to him a lot back in the day.
yeah, yeah, no, I was a fan, especially the album with Seinfeld, and I can't think of the name right now, but yeah, I like his stuff. So we'll see.
So I know what people are here for. All
Hmm.
400 of you that are watching.
Give it to him.
Uh, I'm trying to find the exact post and comment. Actually, oddly enough, I can't find it, although it had so many hits. But Carlos posted a message, and 2 hours ago, Carlos posted a message that said, "Miami, I'm sharing this so you can see the way of the mentality of these individuals that and how they see movements like this as inconvenient and bothersome. People have started to be unfriended. People have started to get into their threats, and everything is talking and everything is moving. And then out of nowhere comes some little knucklehead boy. He drops into a situation and it just starts off. It's real simple. Black people in tech want to know where everybody has been for the last 6 years. And without a substantial answer, these so called responses from community organizations look like market employees. Now, if you know me, you might know this, but if you don't know me, you should know that bottom line, I like to give credit where credit is due. And the reason why I made the comments that I made was because of the guests we're going to bring on. And so I would like to bring to the stage Carlos Vasquez. Carlos.
Whoa, I'm close to the camera. I better back up a little bit.
Oh,
I was
welcome.
like, whoa.
Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Get all in it.
Also, no, thanks so much for having me here for exploring the topic and yeah, the post that I guess went Miami viral. I don't know.
It went more than Miami viral. I had people calling me from out of state too.
Wow.
It's viral.
Yeah, I mean,
So could
yeah,
you find? Do you have the post nearby? Can you read the post?
the original one, right? Yeah,
Yes.
sure thing. Let me bring it up.
And it's worth the wait. I want you guys to hear the post, and then we'll take the dive from there.
Totally. And it was interesting as I think it was, it was getting towards bedtime. Little man was getting to bed, and I was just scrolling through, keeping myself occupied, trying to settle the brain, not activate the brain really. And I think the opposite happened. Uh,
Think.
but um, let's see here. All right, here we go. Miami, we can do better. A hackathon to combat racism is really just trying to be current events. We have schools that need help. We have entrepreneurs who need funding. We have young people who can't afford the price of a boot camp. And it's not about being trendy right now. There are other ways to tackle the systemic issues we are facing, and let's brainstorm ways to do real good.
All right. So I just want everybody to know Carlos is the president and CEO of Miami EdTech. That's a nonprofit based in professional development to teachers and helps them integrate computer science, computational thinking, and entrepreneurship into core content like areas like math and science. Carlos is Puerto Rican and Dominican, also known as Black in South Florida, and grew up in the South Bronx where he attended public high school through middle school. If you don't know, Carlos would have been on the other side to do the right thing, but he was still there for us. He was the first in his family to graduate college and credits his passion for supporting teachers to experience a student and then as a teacher through the New York City Teaching Fellows Program. Carlo has a degree in computer science, which is very rare because a lot of people in tech don't actually have degrees in computer science, oddly enough, and holds his MS in web strategy and design and MS in education. This boy is smart. All right. He's passionate about workforce education. Carlos co-founded a virtual training platform and uses brain and science and social learning in an innovative way that allows students to take control of learning and get feedback from their peers and mentors in a multitude of ways. So I just want you to know exactly
That's a lot.
Who we're speaking to. Hey, man, it's a great profile.
That's what the grades are about. Well, somewhere in there.
So, Carlos, when I saw your post and
appreciate it.
I saw what you said, for some people, they felt I snapped. And there's some things I want to clear up real quick. I like to give exact examples. I'm not really comfortable at speaking around. And Toya knows that. Sometimes Toya will rein me in. Sometimes she'll say, no, you need to say it just like that. So, of course, I made some of my comments about the Knight Foundation, but I also talked about other people that called me, which were Brian Breslin and Johanna, and we were talking about this issue. But now I want to have the same conversation, but in a different way. And I'm sure Toya will have some questions. But Carlos, for those that might have been misunderstood or might have misunderstood you, can you at least now explain to the people exactly what you were trying to say with that post and why you felt a hackathon just was not enough?
Yeah, totally. And first, I want to thank you for coming on to that thread. When I saw, Nancy come on and basically say, if I wanted to write a piece or share some thoughts on it, the first, outlet, the first media I thought to have that kind of conversation on was with you because, moving here in 2012 and kind of going through the learning curve that is coming to Miami and the shock to at least my system and coming here after living in New York City and the Bronx and living in the Bay Area and working for a nonprofit there. It definitely was a shock to the system to come here and observe some of these tokenistic solutions that are again just that address the tip of the iceberg. And the tip of the iceberg, even if you look at it through the lens of like hierarchy of needs, and at the bottom being physiological in terms of people who need shelter and food, and that the post that I put was really a call to action, and to say what else are we doing, because it felt really opportunistic to say we're going to do a hackathon to combat racism. I work in tech, and it did not feel I was uncomfortable with the way it was being promoted. I was uncomfortable with this idea that felt like, we came up with it. A lot of us met and we came into a room and we know how we're going to do this, Miami. It's a hackathon where we bring multitudes of people who are disconnected from the problem you're trying to solve and ask them to come up with the solution. But guess what? Don't worry. We're going to have the mayor there to make sure that we do something with these solutions. And, in the post, I said we need to do better. Well, let's brainstorm. And I think that too many people got caught up in terms of it feeling, more of a criticism than, activation. And I'm okay with that. I think right now people's belief values are being shocked. So the fact that there is going to be discomfort, I'm not there to alleviate and and that's just not the nature of my work. I work in computer science. I work in a field that's dominated by white older males, and I spend every day working on people and helping them with their mindset and my own insecurities. So to think that I'm going to just sit back in the city that I call home and and allow that to kind of go through in a sector that I feel I have a voice in, that wasn't going to fly. And it felt really good to hear other voices come on and say, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. And the text that I got, like, yeah, we're tired of this. And then when you said what you stated, you hit the nail on the head, right? You called things out. And at the end of the day, it's from your perspective and what you've been through. And I think people need to acknowledge and respect that.
And I think one of the first things I want to say, and thank you for your testimony, because it matters. And like you left New York, this is home now. Right. So you're going to fight for the home base. And I tell people, I feel I'm from Panama City. That's my hometown. When it's time to go home and I can put in work, it's a smaller city. It's you going back to the Bronx. It's a whole different. New York is a whole different beast within itself.
Yeah.
But going back to Panama City is a small town. So sometimes I can go there and make immediate change and do what I can. But for me, this is South Florida is home. Like I got to think about everything and the legacy that I'm going to leave here and the friendships I've built. But we're just in a position now where this is enough, because a hit dog is going to holler. So I think the people that are complaining about it, we're just calling out the truths of what we see. So what I wanted to know from yourself, and Toya, of course, jump in anytime, but what I wanted to know from yourself is, what did you see of some of the opportunities of immediate solutions, or what have you not seen in the last 6 years that bothered you so much? Because I know what really bothered you, and I think I know. And we talked briefly offline, but what haven't you seen in the last 6 years compared to now that's bothering you so much?
Yeah, I think you brought up a point around like the kind of the friends piece and representing for hometown, and Miami being relatively small in the grand scheme of like major cities in terms of like tech ecosystems. There is a sense of like concern with like your brand and what that brand, what your message might do or impact, and really more like how might it hold you back. We know Miami in terms of philanthropy and the struggle it is for people of color to launch businesses and to launch nonprofits and to get funding, local funding, versus the funding that happens when everyone wants to come and expand into Miami. All of a sudden, pockets open, versus the same organizations that are here on the front lines addressing the problems that they know, and they're not getting funded. So we bring in all of these things as a way to say, we're going to solve these problems. And for me, what upsets me in moving to Miami is that I saw that we had a unique opportunity, and we still do, to address the systemic things that we talk about, not the belief values. The belief values have to do, there's some personal work that has to be done there. There's people who need to reevaluate who they hang out with and talk to and get information from and go through that challenge. But the systemic stuff, the education, workforce, mentorship, career, entrepreneurship, those are the things that we need to address, the foundations, the pillars. And a lot of times it's time, money, and resources. So when I saw the hackathon thing, I just felt that it was another escape opportunity to hey, we're doing something about it. Look at us. We're doing a hackathon for our event that costs $300, $400 to come to. And that's not enough.
And so this is a chance for me to be fair. Toya, on the end reception of what's going on, besides the amazing work that you're always doing, you always seem to be right there when it's needed. And Latoya, you even got awarded $250,000. And I reached out to you. My first thing is always congratulations. Do you know how this came about? Who is it with? Because I don't know these people, but I know you. And you quickly explained to me it was a Miami chapter. But when you look at this and you hear the things Carlos is saying, how do you feel about your recent award and how it's actually going to the community? Because I have something I
Yeah.
want to say about that.
Yeah, no. So the award that Michael was talking about, for those who don't know, is Black Girl Ventures. So Black Girl Ventures was one of the recipients recently of the Knight Foundation Award. So with that, the $250,000 is given to the Miami chapter. So the Miami chapter is comprised of women who live here and work here. So I'm one of the change agents who's a part of the chapter. So the whole concept behind that is to empower us to do the work in the community that is Black Girl Ventures. Black Girl Ventures has chapters in other cities like Houston, Birmingham, headquartered in DC, Charlotte, and Philly. And they're looking to continue to expand. So this is very much a part of the idea of helping to give access to Black and Brown women founders, access to capital, resources, training, workshops, seminars, which is all things that we're looking to do as a part of the Black Girl Ventures Miami chapter. So that's how we're using those resources. And it's still in the works, right? Because it's a new reward that just happened. So we're figuring out all the logistics on that. But I can say, from what I wanted to kind of talk about as well, is the idea of what does that look like in the community when you're talking about access to funds, right? Because outside of that, I'm also an entrepreneur. I have a product-based business. And the funding that I have received has not come from South Florida. Just got a grant from Caress and I Fund Women. Other funding that has come through has been through other channels. So I completely hear what you're saying in terms of the channels that exist here. We know that there's money here. And it's a conversation that we have all the time, is how do you unlock it? How do you get access to it? And what does that look like? And what are those pathways to get to those funds?
So, Toya, one of the things is I remember a lot of these plans were plans that were already presented, and a lot of people had these opportunities to make these fixes and to do these things with us, and it's never happened. So, what I maybe have a question for you guys is, how is it possible? Because this isn't the first time a black man has been killed on camera. What happened is it's the first time a black man has been killed on camera during the pandemic with a horrible president and rioting and people having an uproar where people are starting to see that this could possibly affect their pockets. So granted, it's the perfect storm, but I guess my question is, why do we need the perfect storm before people start making effective change?
We actually talked about this before the show, Carlos and I, and the whole idea that oftentimes until it comes home for certain people, they don't pay attention to it. And because of COVID-19, people not being at work, people being at home, they have more time, they're able to put in like their resources and their focus into a thing like this, and to really sort of bring it to national attention. So because of this sort of perfect storm, it's not a fly-by-night news headline. It's something that people are able to focus on and keep pushing, like, you can't just walk away from us this fast. Nope, keep it on the headlines. We're going to continue to talk about it. So that's, I think, and then too, Carlos and I talked about this as well, is that for so long, we've looked at other countries and seen uprisings across the pond or in South America, like, oh, look at them, they can't get it together. Now it's actually here. And it's like, oh, wait, we have a problem too? Yes, you guys, US has a problem too. You had a problem for a very long time. Now what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, and if we think about Miami too, like we recently moved, close to the Liberty City neighborhood, Model City. I can't find a native Miamian who could tell me exactly what part of town we're in, but it's somewhere in there in that range. And if you think about McDuffie riots and what happened at that point, when we didn't have social media, but you didn't need to. You had your limited social media, which was, I guess, the newspaper and the news. This man was murdered. The jurors made the decision. People rioted to express their my, like,
Yeah.
shock, right? Like it's your system is shocked. You're talking about, you don't have to go that far back where people's physiological needs were controlled, how you got food, where you could go to get food, where you could use the bathroom, right? So you have these systems that were born from that. And Michael mentioned the AI situation. Racism is so deeply embedded in our society that machines are inheriting racist tendencies. Like, that should be a shock to the system. Who's at the table, creating the machines, or who's watching the watchers?
Right.
And so, like, it goes back to that shock. And people now, and as what happened earlier today, someone unfriended me because I posted a comment on his thread showing him some resources on how he can be an ally, but it wasn't convenient for him. So he said, thank you for, I forget what the comment was. In other words, I'm not ready to deal with my demons, so let me unfriend you and I don't have to see this. And that's part of the process, is like, we need to first listen and understand and remind ourselves. If you look at the Miami history, the fabric is there for what we have now. So a hackathon is not going to necessarily undo. It's not going to undo any of that. Yes, it might be something that is a practical idea for people, but who do they have at the table when they come up with the ideas, right? It's the same way, who do we have at some of our more prominent philanthropic organizations here? Do they have representatives who can help tell them, like, where they should direct the money? Sustainability is key. We got a grant from Microsoft, and I'm so blessed that Lucas Hernandez, who works with Microsoft, and that's what he's got me thinking. Here I am thinking about putting out fires, and he's helping me, yes, put out fires, but you got to also think about, how are you sustainable? Because if you keep putting out the fires, when the money's out, the fires go out, you can't put out any more fires. So there's got to be the balance of addressing the fires and the pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
So, and even with the pipeline, when we're talking about it, one of the things I've been wanting to address, and one of the things I want to make clear to people, is everything you do when you're fixing a community can't be profitable because you're fixing. So we don't have the vast advantage of simply really is in I can't, it's John, it's whoever the guy was before Trevor took over, the guy that used to do the show. He was always so authentic. But you can't ask somebody to put out these fires and to do stuff when we're trying to build equality while you're building equity. And I'm going to say that again so people understand it. It's hard to have people build equality and equity at the same time. So while you're working on a profitable situation, we're working on just the grounds to be able to be comfortable to be in a profitable situation. And that's a hard thing to deal with. Go ahead, Carl.
One comment I got, that, and you really hit on something there. It's so true, because, a lot of individuals who are avoiding what's happening around them and aren't addressing this, the opportunity. As someone mentioned on my timeline, a fellow educator, he said, well, what am I supposed to do? I've only been on this earth for 40 years. Why do I have to pay the toll of the last 400 years? And I had to, let me take a breath right here, sit back, because you've benefited, my friend. He's a white educator. You've benefited from the last 400 years. So to selectively think that you can say that I've only been here for 40 years is not my fault or my problem, completely missing the point. And that's, I think, is part of the problem, is this oblivious perspective to what happened and continues to happen. So in education, for example, we could talk about, and this is my lens. So when we talk about systems, and I think about, privilege and access on who you can influence, that's my area. That's what I talk about. We need ambassadors in their respective areas to do that where they are, because it goes back to that voice. If you share your voice and, there is fear, there should be fear. You're probably disrupting something that no one's ready for. Look at what happened with teachers who had to transition to remote teaching. For so long, they were ignored in terms of, like, we need support. We need to do these things online. And all of a sudden, a pandemic, oh, can you do it now? And it's just like, so we need a pandemic, a crisis, similar to what's happening now, where we have social media to capture the crises. I think it's unfair, and I think we should do better.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a horrible thing. And I always want people to understand, we check each other within our group. So before I sent anything, I still ran it up the flagpole to make sure, hey, are you comfortable with what I'm about to say? Because as you can see, the hat says grow. That's our CEO co-workspace, and the hat represents our brand, generating revenues, opportunities, and wealth. So it's hard for me to have people say, I'm looking to fix this problem, but you are not reaching out to the people that's actually fixing the problem, especially in the communities that you're benefiting from. So when you're benefiting off of the back of others, you have to be willing to step up and realize, hey, before people can cross the bridge to the side of what would be called revenue sharing, revenue growth, we actually have to build the damn bridge. But before we can even build a bridge, we got to solidify and build the foundation so that the bridge won't collapse once it's put in place. And right now, you guys are just working on the foundation and you don't see it, the sweat that we've been going through. Because if you're looking for multi-million and multi-billion-dollar companies to just jump out of nowhere in the Black community at a massive rate to match up to what your VC efforts and to the person that unfriended you, Carlos, if people are looking for you to just be able to come in and say, well, I don't understand why you don't have revenue. If it's so hard for you to talk about a situation, if it is difficult for you to have a conversation about a situation, imagine the difficulty of living through that situation every day.
Yeah, if white people can acknowledge and accept that they got a head start in this country, then, you know, when I engage people in that conversation, we don't have the same vocabulary and we can't continue the conversation. I can send you resources, you could catch up on your own, but I'm not going to sit here and have to prove that. And
Martin Luther King famously said, you cannot ask a man to pull himself up by the bootstraps when he is bootless.
Right.
We also have to acknowledge that the Miami system, in terms of what was here and how Overtown, Liberty City, in terms of African Americans, then we had the influx of Cuban and Haitian immigrants who came to Miami as well. And we had the fact that now you had a new, and this was new to me in terms of learning about the relationship of Latinos and, Hispanics and Blacks, African Americans here, because we in the Bronx, in the South Bronx, in the projects, we were on the same side of the fence. So it took me also to check my identity and go through that and have this tough conversations, because the same way that the whites had a particular, head start, but also unique advantage, white presenting Latinos have that same advantage.
Still.
And right. And there are some who acknowledge that, and I've been really fortunate to have those types of friends in my thread talking about it. But then there are those who won't acknowledge it, and colorism in that world is a completely new topic, another conversation. But that's something that we have to acknowledge a lot in Miami because of who systemically is at the head of the table here in terms of all the pieces of the system that we're talking about.
No, absolutely, and especially when you think about back to the McDuffie riots, Miami looked different then than it does now. So the makeup of Miami, because Miami is such an immigrant city, you don't have a lot of people identify with the African American experience or the history that lives here. So activism here looks different than it does anywhere else. And you have to kind of put that into perspective, because you had a lot of Black flight and you had a lot of Black people in the 90s who left Miami and moved to Atlanta or did other things because the city was starting to change and they didn't quite feel themselves here anymore. So you have to kind of put that into context as well when you're talking about what Miami looks like in activism.
Yeah, and people are afraid. Sorry, go ahead, Michael.
No, completely. You're the guest.
I was going to say, people are afraid to step out their comfort zones, right? When what happened, let's just look at the Colin Kaepernick situation, right? And what happened at that time. And you can't be any more clear. He couldn't be any more clear about what he was kneeling about. Who gave him the idea to do it that way? And it was still like, no, this is outside of my scope of comfort and belief values. No, we can't. And we missed an opportunity there in a sense. But now look what happened with Bubba Wallace, right? This NASCAR driver who goes through this situation, and NASCAR, we can talk about the history of NASCAR forever, right. But the systemic, as far as I've been reading about some of the changes that they've tried to make, and the unity that they did when they rode next to him and they walked next to him, and some were kneeling in that picture that he took after the noose was found, which creatively the FBI says it was there since 2019, crazy stuff, but why imagine Cap was met with that same level of support? Instead, they ostracized and removed anyone who tried to show activism with, or solidarity with him.
Which makes it impossible to not see this as a marketing ploy, because you have pushed Black people to a brink of being fed up. So when you go back to what you said about the McDuffie riots, people got to remember that was only in 1980. I was probably 1 year old when it happened. That's not that long ago.
No.
The McDuffie riots happened in 1980. So 1980 was what, 2 years before Scarface got made down here, and that's what Miami looked at at the time. So there was a whole different look of Cubans at the time being locked in cages under I-95, waiting for papers or to be released. But it seems so eerily just messed up because I don't know. The only person I think could relate to this the most would be Kathy Fernandez Rondo, because another officer got acquitted of the death of Arthur McDuffie. So once again, it's a situation where a police officer killed an innocent black man and he got acquitted of it. So we are reliving it. The only difference is, as Will Smith said, and as we've so elegantly said on this show, it's being recorded, it's being filmed, and we now have our own platforms, and we don't need the newspaper and we don't need the news channels to talk about it. But this has been going on, and Carlos, you touched on it perfectly. If Cap was met with the same kind of thing, maybe we wouldn't be as mad. But if every time it goes, and you have to really realize, and I hate to see it this way, this only happens when we start affecting their dollars. They didn't kill Martin Luther King when he was just protesting and being peaceful. They killed him when he started talking about money. They killed Malcolm X when they started talking about money. People, Dante, you can put me back on the triple screen. Because I want to be able to see everybody's face with this one. I'm going to tell you a story that has nothing to do with racism, but just has to do with how corporate America thinks and some of the things you need to change in your ways. Comcast, as we know, as horrible as their service may be, in and out, Comcast service goes out, right? I remember 4 or 5 years ago, Toya, tell me if this ever happened to you. Carlos, tell me if this ever happened to you. You have a horrible day with Comcast and they won't do right. What's the one thing you say? I'm going to leave you. I'm going to get me another service. Have y'all ever
said I'm going to Uber.
Right. And you know, deep down inside, ain't no way in hell you going to do that.
Damn, it's the cheapest one. Oh, what do I do? Right.
But it's still something that comes out of your mouth, right?
Yeah.
So that's us in the 80s and the 90s. Then you get into the 2000s, then it becomes 2016 to 2020. Oh, I'm sorry. So you can't provide the service I'm looking for? So I pay this amount a month. And then every day that is down divided by that. So that's about $5 a day. So every day my service is down, or $3 a day, every day my service is down, you'll be offering me a refund for the days that I didn't get my service. Actually, you know what? Instead of somebody getting there July 5th, we can have somebody there tomorrow. Never raised my voice, but I threatened their pockets. I had an appointment. Now, this is a story that just happened 2 days ago. So I'm not just giving you a unrealistic story. This happened 2 days ago. I wasn't going to have my appointment till July 5th. But the moment I threatened their pockets and told them every day I don't have my service, you can refund me, and I will tolerate the lack of the service that I was promised, I would be okay with it. So let's put that equation into something else. Let's just go with Black life and the life of people of color. I am okay if you won't give me the same equal rights and you won't give me the life that I deserve. But every day I don't get it, it's coming out of your pocket and I want you to pay for it. That's why what's happening is happening. Y'all pockets got threatened. So you don't want Aunt Jemiah on your packaging no more. But we saw the racism. But my thing is NASCAR, if you saw the racism, why didn't you take down the flags last year?
Right.
Why didn't you take down the flags when Trayvon got killed or Mike Brown? Why was it this time where you finally decided, because Bubba Wallace, and bless his soul for speaking up, why did you decide, you know what, maybe we shouldn't have those Confederate flags out there to represent? For one, why are you flying the flags of losers in the first place? I don't remember you flying the flag of somebody that came in fourth place. You only honor first, second, and third. So why would NASCAR, about being the fastest and winning, want to honor the people that lost?
That's mind-boggling. One of the points you made that I want to touch on too is around like the spirit of Cap, and how many of the other NFL players who actually joined Cap and, you know, physically demonstrating the kneeling and speaking about it, but how many players who felt it but held it back and didn't, and that spirit was, you know, impacted by the environments that they're in. That same framework is what some of our people of color, Black employees who have a role in a company and who have the spirit.
White people in tech in Miami.
People in tech, right, in Miami, and don't quite they're so, they're concerned about how they voice it, that you just feel so defeated before you could even get out what you want to say.
Mhm.
So that's one of the things that I saw happen with the Facebook post, was that
Censorship.
since you try to defeat something before it catches on, right? And you have
Mhm.
things. So has it led to some good conversations? It has. There has been some good conversations, but you know, let's see what happens. The story's still to be written.
Carlos, I'm going to tell you right now, the good conversations are cool, but even by everybody with a good conversation, my initial question still is, what's different now than it was 6 years ago?
I thought it was really interesting, the comment you made about, I think the next day was Juneteenth, and you made the comment about feeling that like free and sharing, and I think that's what's happening now too across the country. Is there's more of a sense of freedom and sharing and saying what you really feel, because people need to check their censorship. It's not the time to censor anybody. It's the time to listen.
Carlos, it goes back to MLK and Malcolm X. The biggest thing is I feel financially free. So before I let you go, I want to do this while you're here because I'd love to get the follow up, and so we can close it out. But someone needs to hear this. So let me just make something clear to some people out there. The funding that you receive from organizations is to execute them. They're not for profit. That's why you run a nonprofit.
Right.
I am not taking or asking for money from the Knight Foundation or any other organization to sustain me. The thing is, with my business partner that's on the phone, and with Latoya, with Alicia, with Leroy, we have several businesses and we've sustained ourselves outside of this. Foundations are meant to make a change and impact the areas of weakness and not to profit from them. Because frankly, I can show you all of the profitability outside of tech, but surely in innovation, especially with the help of Black people. That would be fashion, sports, music, and culture. Your top four drivers of the economy that we have right now. So if you object to this and you don't like what I'm saying, understand if you could fix the problem, or if the problem was going to be solved, you wouldn't have to give out grants to people to fix the problem for you. So in other words, as you're giving out a grant, do not take it for granted for the people that are getting the grant, because they're actually solving a problem. That is the basis of philanthropy. So I know some people might be thinking, and I saw some little chatter, oh, this is just a thing to get funding. No, this is a thing to fix problems through funding, because I myself can't step away from my job that is taking care of my household and my future to fix the problem of the systematic oppression that I did not put in place. Therefore, those that have oppressed are footing the bill for me to actually be able to fix those problems, because they do not have the capability, nor the knowledge, nor the desire to actually do it, because the work happens. So if anybody wants to object to this, any company or any of these large companies that have been able to donate to Emerge, but somehow you weren't able to donate to Black Tech Week. If you were able to donate to SUPX, and if you were able to donate to Bob, but you were unable to donate to Black Tech Week, this is a question I have for you. Would you object if your company had to go through a third-party audit of your diversity and inclusion efforts? And if you failed the metrics that we saw to be deemed excellent, and there were repercussions, and you had to dedicate a percentage of your gross or net income to fix the problem, would you be open to that audit? And within that audit, and the public and the national attention of the pandemic is just that, this public audit would appear on a nationwide platform to show people exactly what you have going on with you. So it's kind of like the same way you crucify a Black man, or you crucify Black people with terms like Black on Black crime. Or when a Black man is arrested, he's shown his mugshot, or he's shown him smoking weed or something of the sort. But when a white kid is arrested, it's his high school graduation and his baby photos. Would you be willing to go through a public audit of your diversity inclusion efforts by a third-party organization? I'm going to tell you, every CEO and executive right now is saying no, because you would be scared, because we know what's happening in the dark. But the thing is, the internet has bought the light, and Facebook, Instagram, StreamYard, and these streaming platforms are starting to expose and shed a tiny light on what myself, Carlos and Latoya have to go through every day. So if you are scared to talk about it, imagine how scared we are living it and speaking up on it, wondering what the repercussions may be. But frankly, we don't give a damn because you still don't know how we really make our money, and you're not going to affect our pockets or our livelihood. Someone needs to hear this. So, guys, I just wanted to know, how would you feel about being a part of a committee where the top 15 to 20 organizations in South Florida that have donated to other efforts but have not donated to Black causes went through a public audit to be evaluated on their efforts for diversity and inclusion?
I think it makes sense. I think that at the end of the day, it's one thing to write a check. At the same token, I think Amira here mentioned something about being a part of an organization where she felt marginalized, and the people's relationship with money is a whole other situation, right? When you are used to money, you grow in money, you're born in money, you write a check, there's a different relationship with someone who didn't have that privilege and access. So a lot of times as a nonprofit or someone trying to do good, you deal with that. I've dealt with that identity issue. And the one thing I will say is that I've been really fortunate again to like Lucas with Microsoft, who's been more focused on not like solving and putting out these fires, but on top of that, like how are you going to get your next support, and not just saying, here's your check, we'll check in 6 months or we'll check in a year. Unless the check is big enough, okay, that might work. But at the end of the day, writing a check is one piece of that equation. So I agree. I think having a system that, and on the investor side, the percentage, I think it's only like 1 to 2% of investors who are of color. That's a completely different, another problem. So that also influences how decisions are made, because you got to think about people's social networks, who they have access to, who they can speak to, and it's not easy. So I think that's a really solid idea.
So everybody that don't know, and Toya, I'm not jumping in before you on purpose, but I'm jumping in because I know your body. If you guys don't know Toya, when she's sitting with that face, she is processing. When Toya stops smiling, when Toya has that face, she is processing. So Toya, I would like for you to take the honor of as for one, a mother of a young Black man, a young Black king, as the president of our company, the president of Cosmology, and all the great things you're doing. I would like to close out the show already saying thank you to Carlos for being here and giving us his views.
Absolutely.
I would like to close out the show with either in these streets or your perspective on this overall thing, but I think you need to be the voice of reason and to take us out today.
Yeah, no, so we can go ahead and do a little POV. I think when we're talking about real change and lasting change, the moment that we're in right now is so key, because we have a huge opportunity to really make some things happen. And we can't marginalize and silence those who are taking the time and the effort and the space to say something. We can't just shut people out because they're saying something that we don't want to hear. We need to listen, because that's how we got here in the first place. Because people stopped listening, and people just start to shove people where they wanted them to be in their compartments because it was convenient for them. It's about it's about being inconvenienced. We got to be uncomfortable, because change happens when we get uncomfortable. So I say buckle up, because what we're seeing right now is just the beginning.
Hey, y'all. I'm gonna reverse it. That's Toya. That is Toya. So Carlos, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Take us out.
That's Mike.
And this is Tech Beats and Bytes.